Hi there, my name's Katie and sometimes I quilt. In 2005, Three Sisters for Moda released a range of fabric called Wuthering Heights, and it to this day remains my most precious fabric. I'm actually sitting on a quilt that I made back in 2005 with that range. And today I want to talk about precious fabric. Now, I was really lucky last year at a D-stash to pick up a whole bundle, a whole heap of the Wuthering Heights fabric. Given, it's 20 years since it was released, to find, basically untouched yardage is pretty rare, and I was really lucky. But it's these sorts of things that get me thinking about the precious fabric and whether or not we should just use it. I know, radical. So in a quest to use some of my more precious fabric, I have started replacing and making new versions of everyday things that I take with me. And this week, I've replaced this. I've made a new one of these. This is my laptop cover. It is in no way, shape or form a protection for dropping my laptop at all. It is just purely so that I can put it in this and put it in my handbag and know that it's not going to hurt things in my handbag and things in my handbag aren't going to scratch the outside of it. It also means that I can put it on tables and put my laptop on top of it. So we're going to go a little bit of a journey. We're going to time travel, go back a couple of days, go upstairs, and I will show you the fabric that I'm using and why I've chosen to use it that way, and we'll be back at the end. Okay, so we're going to do a quick make. Starting with 16 inches wide by width of fabric. It gives us a little bit of it over edge either way. The reason why, we're going to make a new case. So my laptop got a MacBook which sits in here quite nicely. This isn't actually to protect the computer from being dropped or anything. It won't. What it's to do is to protect the computer from getting scratched when I throw it in my bag and all the rest of it. And I've got some stickers on there that I would like to sort of protect a little bit. So I slip it into a case. Yeah, it also gives me something to put my laptop on. honesty, I have a choice of machines for when I'm doing this sort of thing, and I decided to go with the Juki for a couple of different reasons. Number one, there is a pile of stuff all over my Sweet 16 at the moment that mean that it's really hard. And number two, Liliana is being a bit of a Velcro kitten at the moment, and I didn't necessarily want to be working on the Sweet 16 while said Velcro kitten was trying very hard to help and participate in the project. Okay, now we're up to this bit where I've got my piece of quilted fabric, my cats, and some binding tape. Now, I've just made normal bias binding here, and the first one that I'm going to sew down is just along here, just to neaten off this one edge. So what we'll do is we will put the clips, clip that in place. One's broken. Then we'll sew that down, and then we'll fold it over and we'll sew it down to the back, just like we do with a quilt. Okay, so bias tape is down. It's nicely okay. Observation, this was printed, so I've actually straightened it as part of putting it on bias, but whatever. So we've got that. I'll just trim that there. About 9 1/4, 9-ish inches up. Put my clips back. I should just bring all of them over. But what's actually going to happen now is that, firstly, we are going to put rounded corners on the flap, and because then that'll sit nicely. I just need to decide what round. Is it going to be this round? Like that? Or is it going to be something else? Give me a moment. Oh, I know. Because I want it roundish. I'm going to use a jelly roll. Just put it there like that. I need a bit better of a line so that I can cut it. Look, you could use a plate. I think the last time around I did use a plate. Like a dinner plate or something. Just gonna cut the circles. And this is why I made bias, because I wanted these rounded. It's about right. I mean, I could fold it in half. Ah, did pretty well. See? Now, what we're going to do is give myself a bit of space down that end and sew the sides up at the same time that I am attaching the bias tape. And I'll show you when we get to the corners here, we're going to take it easy and we're going to ease those around so that they flip back over there nicely. I am not going to finish it off by machine. I'm actually going to go downstairs and hand stitch it. And because I prefer that finish, but I won't really notice it here. All right, I'm going over there to the sewing machine to sew all of this down. One of the things I really love about the Juki is the different feet that come with it. Now, I've had a number of sewing machines over the years, and the Juki I have had for, must be coming up a decade. And the compensating foot, particularly when I'm making bags or things with thicker seams or lots of seams, like it will go through sort of 6 layers of denim without a problem. I'm yet to make anything that it has a problem with. What I particularly like when I'm doing this sort of thing is the compensating foot. So the foot of the machine, like the foot that I've put on the machine, has got, it's almost like a 1/4 inch, the seam allowance that I'm getting, but it's got like a really hard barrier there that helps lift the other half of the foot up. So particularly when we're putting, like sewing through lots of layers. So if you think about it in this little bit here that I'm doing here, I've got sort of 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of the front and back of the fabric, 2 layers of binding, and 4 layers of bias tape. And that's a lot of layers for a sewing machine to work its way through. And I find that using the semi-industrial, which is what the Juki is, particularly for making bags and for doing some of the harder things, is a lot better, and it works out a lot better, and there's less frustration for me. I adore my Juki. Slow and steady wins the race when you're going around corners, particularly when trying to apply bias tape. And I'm just going to leave you with the rest of this. It all works out quite nicely, really. So here we are, all sewn down. Well, machine applied anyway. What I'm going to do next is to flip it over to the outside like that. Now there are a lot of layers in some of this. So we need to make sure that we're sort of stretching and folding a little. You see that with the bias, if you can see the bias here, it's helping, because we've used bias tape, it's helping the corners just go nice and round. You do this exactly the same way if you decide to put rounded corners on quilts in your binding. Just making sure that your binding is down. Now, could I have applied it the other way around, where I'm sewing it onto the outside and then flipping it under to sew down by hand on the inside. Yes, totally could have done that. That's not the way I picked the piece up. So that's the only reason why. So now I'm going to sew all of these down by hand, and I might go watch some TV while I do that. But that's what it's looking like.
Now, I shared some videos at the shop. I took them last week or week before of things that we had in the shop, and I think Ziggy may have just got onto there. I'm going to have to rescue what he's playing with. What he has. And this is fine, that's all stuff. Now, when I shared the video of like the new stuff that I bought, I would be happy with that. Always said that. Right now, let's do this. Getting back in here. I just mentioned I will do some of the Liberty. I mean, the Liberty that you're about seeing the next couple of videos, which are from the shop. So anytime I go to the shop, I will take a little piece of that. I will order it for my own collection, for my own making. I chose them because they're things I love and want myself. So that's great.
And here is the finished thing, complete with laptop inside it. I'm not going to hold it up too much because apparently it sends the colour wacky. The inside is yellow, the binding is pink gingham. It coordinates quite nicely with the cats, and now I'm going to get to take Tula Pink cats with me wherever I choose to. I do have enough left over of the quilted fabric to make a Kindle case or something else. I'm tossing up whether I do a pouch or whether I adapt what I did for this with the folded over bit to do a different style of Kindle case. Keeping in mind that I found that when I was traveling, I would put the case in the seat pocket in the plane, and then that would be where I would put my stuff, like my phone and that sort of thing. I'd just slip it in there because I will drop them and down the back of seats and things like that. But if I've got them there, then I know where they are. They've got a spot and we're good to go. But a success. What's your favourite fabric? Have you got precious fabric that is sitting waiting for you to use? Thinking about bags and pouches for some of mine. Maybe. Sometimes I might even make a quilt. All right. Thanks. See you next time. Bye.